Hi, Kelly.
Hello, my love.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Freaking awesome. So, this is our fourth episode of Sex, Wine, and Rock and Roll,
Is it?
but I'd like to think of it as episode one of season two.
Yeah, why how did season 1 end? I'm pretty sure it was a huge cliffhanger, wasn't it?
I think it ended badly. That's why it's been so long since we've done this.
Where were we during the last one?
I think our last one was here. We did our first one here. Our second one was the one we did in Volcano
Okay.
up in on the Big Island.
Okay.
And then our third one was here. You were not happy with the results of it, so we took a break.
Here's the problem. When you have a podcast about sex, wine, and rock and roll, you end up drinking too much wine and talking too much about sex and rock and roll. Is that possible?
I don't think so. Not for me. I don't see anything wrong with that.
So, welcome everyone else out there to Sex, Wine, and Rock and Roll, my favorite menage a trois. We are drinking what exactly? What have you chosen for us today?
Today we have 4 bottles of Gewürztraminer.
Yeah, it looks like you've got 2 from Alsace, France, and 2 from California. So,
Yeah.
2 New World Gewürztraminers and 2 Old World Gewürztraminers. By the way, I love to say the word Gewürztraminer. It's very fun. It's like delicatessen and juxtaposition. It's a great word.
It is. It is fun. So, what do you think of this wine, Kelly?
So let's talk about this first one that we're tasting, because we're not drinking, we're tasting. It's classy. So this is a 2017 Gewürztraminer New World out of Anderson Valley, Mendocino. You picked these out all on your own. I had nothing to do with this.
Thank you.
It says on the front that it's from Navarro Vineyards, 13.5% alcohol, estate dry, bottled. One of the things to keep in mind about Gewürztraminer is they are best drink within the first 2 years of release. The reason for that is that Gewürztraminer is supposed to be a little bit acidic and what they would call crisp. I'm not a huge acid fiend. I know you like acid a lot more than I do. So I'm okay with a little bit older version. This one is 3 years old, and I would probably think it'd still be delicious next year. Yeah, because for me, I like when it smooths out. A dry Gewürztraminer for me is has a lot of flowers in it, and like kiwi and guava, and I like that sort of drier tropical fruit flavor. But I really like floral notes.
That's my favorite thing about Gewürztraminer is how sometimes you can get like essence of elderflower in there.
Mm-hmm.
They're usually very floral. They usually just smell fantastic. Don't they say that a large percentage of what you taste is based on your olfactory senses?
Oh, yeah. 80% of what you taste is actually what you smell. When you're tasting things, you can only taste 5 things. Do you want to know what they are?
Yes, please. Educate our friends out there.
So there's only 5 things that you can taste, and that is sweet, which is the first thing we learn to taste as babies, and then bitter, which we immediately learn not to like bitter, and we have to, I guess we initially don't like bitter, then we have to learn to like it as we get older. But sweet, bitter, salty, sour, or what they call umami, which is umami. That's a different conversation. So that's like mushrooms or meat. Ooh, daddy. Ooh. So those are the five flavors that you can actually taste. Everything else you're tasting comes from your nose, or the official term, your olfactory senses, as you said.
Yeah, I think that this California Gewürztraminer is pretty mellow. It's not. I've had some Gewürztraminers that are much more floral and, like you said, that tropical flavor. This one's pretty smooth, soft. I'd say it's soft. What would you categorize it as?
Yeah, I'd say it's really well balanced. I'm gonna say it's like medium acid, like medium weight. I would say that it's more fruity than floral. Really popular California, in the cooler climates of California, and then German Gewürztraminers French. So we don't have any German Gewürztraminer
Yeah, I'm
with
surprised
us.
about that because I really enjoy the German ones. They're the ones that I think of as, the most floral and usually pretty sweet because it's, colder climate, later harvest.
Well, also they add sugar after the fact for a lot of German style wines. Just saying. Which is totally fine. It's not unusual for a winery to add sugar or acid to the wine after the fact or some other things to.
They do that with a lot of other wines, ports,
Yep.
port wine.
Yeah, they add extra alcohol to port, which is nice.
Some Rieslings.
There's no Riesling with you.
Of my favorite. So in the rock and roll world, it's taken a big hit. This episode 1 of season 2 is being done during the quarantine, and a lot of musicians, tours have been canceled.
Mm-hmm.
From big name musicians that were on tour
To little name musicians.
to little name musicians
that were just here.
Yeah,
Just in the living room.
just in the living room, and they can't go play live in front of people, and so it's causing a lot of struggle for them. A lot of them play for cash, and with everybody being quarantined, they're not able to get out there and play for audiences, so they're taking a big hit.
Yeah, I think that hits really close to home for us because we have a lot of friends who are musicians by trade, and some of them are struggling musicians. Some of them are, I don't know, getting by. What's above struggling?
Yeah.
Like,
most of them are struggling.
but the point is, they make their money by appearing in public and providing a service. So if you
once
can't
they
do
start
that,
wearing them gold-plated diapers, they quit calling us, quit hanging out with us.
yeah. So I've seen a lot of the bigger names doing free concerts, and it's been sort of interesting to watch folks to, their own kitchens or living rooms or whatever. We got to hear Neil Diamond sing "Sweet Caroline," and you were like, "Who is that? Is that just some old guy?" And I'm like, "No, that's really him."
That was great. Yeah. Don't touch me. I won't touch you. Hands, washing hands. Thanks, Neil. That was
Thanks,
good.
Neil. Yeah.
I enjoyed that a lot. I also have enjoyed another tragedy in the rock world right now.
You've enjoyed another tragedy?
Well, a tragedy that we're having in the rock world right now is John Prine is currently in the hospital, and I've heard multiple musicians come out and do covers of his songs.
Yeah, I was actually just about to say that the other one that really sticks out in my head is seeing Joan Baez sing in her kitchen.
That's a nice kitchen, too.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, you would love that kitchen. One of my all-time favorite John Prine songs.
Hello in there?
Yeah. It was really beautiful. Yeah.
Touched on the wine and the rock and roll.
Well, we're just touching it. This is just the foreplay.
Let's touch the sex realm.
All right, what do you want to talk about in the sex realm?
Well, there's a quarantine going on, so one thing I've really enjoyed about the COVID outbreak and the quarantine is I've always been a clean guy, so now that everybody is on the hand washing trend, I think that's great. I have other friends too that, like the hand sanitizer and...
Yeah, I have some right here, actually.
Yes, and it's nice. It's lavender scented.
I know. I'm not going to use it right this minute because it'll get in the way of my wine.
But I'm enjoying the fact that other people are stepping up their cleanliness game. I hope that after the quarantine is over, people continue on with
washing their hands,
what
their mothers told them.
Yeah,
I think that's one thing especially dudes forget about. I think once they've been in a relationship for a long time, or maybe even those who are not really in a relationship, there might be a reason. Hygiene is humongous. It's a very big deal. I talk a lot actually about Emily Nagoski in her book, Come As You Are, points out the dual control model, and that we all have an accelerator and we all have brakes, and it's just a different model than the view of, a sex drive, so to speak. There are things that get us going and things that hold us back, and having a smelly partner or even a partner that you don't know where their hands have been. I think back at the episode of that 70s show.
Two Broke Girls.
No, well, no, that episode of that's a good one too. But the episode of that '70s show where Kelso and who's the brunette? Mia Kunis is the.
Oh, Mia Kunis.
So she's the Coolidge, whatever. I'm butchering it. Sorry, Mia. I'm pretty sure you're not listening, so I think it'll be okay. Jackie. So Kelso and Jackie get in a big fight, and he was like, "Remember that time that we were fooling around, and you asked me if I washed my hands, and I said yes. Well, I had just gotten through playing with 7 dogs," or something like that, right? So that's a thing that goes through people's heads, especially in a time when all the germaphobes out there are like, "I told you so." I've been preparing for this. I'm grateful that you're a clean guy. It matters.
Yeah. Sometimes a little too OCD clean.
It's good. It's okay by me.
That's why you don't do my laundry.
Hell no.
Too finicky about that.
Nope.
And I'm glad that our relationship has survived, because I remember early on when I was like, there is a grain of sand on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you let me have a chicken at the kitchen table.
Yeah.
Oh, how far we've come.
Yeah. So, I don't know what chicken has to do with sex, wine, or rock and roll. I don't think you should involve chickens in sex.
How about rock and roll?
Um,
I do know how chickens are involved with wine, though. Like, chickens are great for your vineyards. And I've seen a bunch of wineries that'll do, like, they have these little cages that go right at the base of all of the wine. So they'll have, the vines. And so they'll do a chicken run at the bottom of the vines. And the chickens can eat the bugs, and they're tilling up the soil, and they're walking back and forth, and they're keeping down, on
weeds.
Yeah, because apparently chickens will eat anything, even chicken.
Yeah, and their poop is good fertilizer.
Right, exactly, and they love bugs.
Yep. So, yeah, chickens are great for agriculture. That's awesome. And wine is agriculture.
And feathers are great for sex. Oh, there, I brought it back around.
Hell yeah. And rock stars like to eat chicken. Fried chicken. I'm going to put that on my rider when I become big and famous. I'm going to make sure that my green room has
a chicken?
4 pieces of fried chicken.
White meat or dark meat?
One of each color.
Well, that's only 2.
We'll get some gray and some pink.
Oh, gross. Gross. We talked a little bit about some of the free concerts. I mean, I guess I just alluded to that, but...
Yeah, it's been great seeing, now that everybody's quarantined, there's been a lot of stuff put on the internet by musicians. I really enjoyed that Willie Nelson. We've talked about Willie Nelson on this podcast before, but his son, Lucas Nelson, had that song, Turn Off the News and Build a Garden. What great advice during this time.
And that is, you kind of did that. You're working on that, right? Okay, What should I taste next?
So we have Trimbach.
Okay, so in Alsace, French, let's see, what's the year on this one? Product of France. 2016, so this one's a little bit older. Yeah, Trimbach Gewürztraminer. So Gewürztraminer is usually the third wine. So one of my favorite things to do is to take a non-wine drinker and turn them into a wine drinker. And if somebody is drinking...
We should do that. We should start a wine missionary, go knocking on people's doors and be like, have you heard the word of wine today?
I really like that idea, actually. It takes me back to wanting to finish my mindfulness workbook. So, in any case, making non-believers into believers, Gewürztraminer is usually like third on that list. So we start with something like...
It's a great gateway wine.
Yeah, it really is, because it's a little bit more flavorful than like starting out with a Pinot Grigio, and then you might go to a...
Chardonnay.
No.
Riesling.
No. Yes, a Riesling. Then you start Riesling with them. And once they can Riesling, then you move on to a Gewürztraminer. By then they can usually say it. It's a little bit bigger and a little bit sweeter, but also can be really surprising. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that. So,
we
are
even,
you tasting this one already?
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We even made our own Gewürztraminer
Oh,
at one time.
we did.
Yeah, we did one of the local wine places here on Oahu. We went
Yeah,
in,
Onio.
O'Neill. We went in and made a Gewürztraminer, and it turned out pretty well. It was,
It was really good the
yeah,
first year.
it was fun to make.
It was terrible after the first year, but it was fun to make. It
Yes.
was, and we had great names.
Gewürztraminer,
Ghost of no, Goats de Wiener,
Gewürztraminer,
or something like that. We called it the GFY, the Goats Fuck Yourself.
goat fuck yourself.
Yeah, and it had a picture of a goat with giant testicles because we're classy like that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty fun. We had
Oh, okay. So this wine is much less deep. Like this one is, if I had known, we probably should have tasted this one before the first one that we tasted. This one is a lighter wine to me, not nearly as fruity, drier, less complex. What do you think?
yeah, it's again soft, not really.
Mm,
Like I said, one of the things that I love the most about Gewürztraminers is their floral scent, and so far both of these have been pretty.
that's really interesting because it
Soft.
has like a vanilla undertones. Like I'm getting vanilla in the back of my nose.
Nice.
That's weird and awesome.
I don't think I noticed that.
Take a big ol', not in the smell, but in that, get it in there, squish it around till it gets to all the parts of your mouth. Right? Like it gets some air over the top. One of the things you try to do when you're tasting wine is to get, it's a little anti,
You oxygenate it. Get a little air.
you get a little air in there, but I was going to say that it's counterintuitive. Like you don't think like I should breathe in while I'm trying to swallow. But it is. It gets air flowing over the top of the wine, and it helps to release those smells, which turn into flavors.
Absolutely.
This is fun. The second taste on this one was much, much better than the first. Sorry. So we talked about free concerts.
Yes.
Should we talk about some of the free resources that are out there for folks in the sexuality world?
Absolutely.
So a couple of things I think are really cool. Pornhub has released a portion of their services. I think that it's the portion that is like the instructional. So Pornhub has a section of their website that is supposed to be instructional. And so they have released that portion for free. Like normally that's behind a pay.
Has anybody ever seen this section of Pornhub?
I'd like to think they have.
Okay.
And I don't know. I haven't seen it. I haven't gone there. Maybe I should.
I haven't gone there, and Pornhub is like my homepage.
Oh, I'm so sure. Stay back, ladies. He's taken. The other thing that was pretty cool is if you're not into looking at porn, and a lot of people aren't, a lot of people are, and that's totally fine. But a lot of people aren't, and that's okay too, especially women. Women tend to like to hear things. That's why they read those, nasty.
Penthouse Forum, which I don't think exists anymore.
No, I was thinking like the Victorian. What are the novels called?
Oh, the ones with Fabio on the cover?
Yes, those.
The Harlequin romance novels?
Yes, there it is. Harlequin, yeah. Anyway, so a lot of women have been reading those for a long time, and in the true nature of the world of audio, Dipsea, DIPSEA.com has a really nice selection designed primarily for women, but also for their partners, where they tell you erotic stories, and they are giving away some free memberships to that as well. So if it's something you think you might be interested in, Dipsea, something fun for the car on the drive home to get your gas going before you get to the house, right?
That's good. And if it's educational, it's great.
Well, I don't know how educational it is, but it's supposed to be hot. The
Well,
ones I heard were nice. I have listened to them. I think they're lovely.
Well, since we don't do a very good job with our educational system,
Mm-hmm.
teaching about sex or even love. One of my favorite subjects is how we call it sex ed here in America, but other countries, they start teaching it in elementary school and they call it love education.
Yeah.
And I can't see anything wrong with that.
No, it's about connection and how to build connection. And we are so prone in this country to pathologize everything. And that goes back to we're teaching about consent and good touch and bad touch. But that's not really the same as how do you build connection? How do you stay intimate, especially in a world where even more than ever, like everybody's, behind a camera. And
Yeah, every phone has a camera, and
folks are hooking up with apps, and there's not too many relationships. Like, sex has never been easier to get as a single person, but I talk to a lot of people who are really lonely.
yeah, you can be having sex and still be lonely, be married and be lonely. Yeah, intimacy is definitely not overrated.
No, and I know that
Intimacy
there's
is
a lot
great.
of there are, a lot of parents are like, well, that's something we teach at home. I think that it goes beyond the sexuality side of intimacy. It's about just connection in general. So I continue to work on sex ed for adults, our Facebook page, and we're working on a teachable school where you can go in and choose topics that are interesting to you, and take a lesson on all sorts of things. Like, right now, I'm actually reading about and putting together a open relationship polyamorous 101, polyamory 101 type course. Yeah, so just recently was educating a group of therapists, because that's not a thing they teach us in therapy school necessarily, is the sexuality side of therapy. We are psychotherapists first and foremost, but almost all adult relationships at some point or another are going to turn to the topic of sex and sexuality. So I was talking to a group of therapists recently, and doing sort of a BDSM 101 course for them. So that'll also probably be something that will appear on sex ed for adults.
It's awesome and interesting. Probably not for everyone, but for those
Nothing is for everyone.
no.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have it out there for those that are interested in it in a healthy and respectful, consensual manner.
Right. So that gets back to those who are interested. There's a huge section of pandemic porn out there where
I haven't seen that yet.
for every person there is a speciality or a kink.
But speaking of therapy and sex, what about therapy and wine?
So we're not technically allowed to mix those two topics, other than, mindfulness is, or experience mindfulness is part of our mindfulness practice, where we're using wine as a conduit for mindfulness. We're not doing therapy.
No, but it is a great way to enlighten oneself, find peace, relaxation, balance, therapy in a glass. I think a lot of people are doing this on their own anyway.
Well, a lot of people are certainly self-medicating with wine, especially right now while we're all quarantined, so to speak. So we developed Experience Mindfulness as a result of talking to men and women, mostly moms actually, who, when I talk about what do you do for self-care, a lot of folks are like, oh, I drink wine. Is that it's usually something like, I drink wine. Is that bad?
No.
Or I know it's bad. And so that's when we started looking at using wine as a conduit for mindfulness.
It's only bad if you abuse it or you do too much of it and it becomes, and it affects your life and makes your life unmanageable in ways or has, repercussions.
Right. If you hear that squeaking, he's opening up another.
Yeah, putting the corkscrew in. Wonder how that's going to sound.
So what are you putting the cork? Which bottle is this that you're putting the corkscrew into?
This is the other bottle of Gewürztraminer from Spain.
Nope. Try again.
It's a 2015.
It's from Alsace. It's from France.
Oh, it's from France.
Yep.
Sorry. So, and this one, where's this one from?
France.
Yeah.
Alsace. Which actually has like some of the best quality Gewürztraminer out there, and their dessert Gewürztraminers are highly coveted. Just tell us about this wine. What color is it?
It has a beautiful yellow hue. Oh, it's much darker than the one that you have in the other one you have in there, which is from the same winery, right?
Yep. So this one's more golden, and this one, what would you say, is that more straw or watery?
Yeah, it's clear.
What
I would
year
say
is
clear. 1 year difference. Yours is a 2016. Mine is a
2015.
2015. So not that much. This Gewürztraminer is a darker yellow color. I haven't sniffed it yet. There's that floral. This, out of all the Gewürztraminers we've had today, this one smells the most floral.
So one thing that you might find interesting is that as wines age, white wines get darker and red wines get lighter. But they all start to turn brown, right? So they get lighter, and the older they are, they turn brown. Red wines turn sort of a brick or brownish color. So that's one of the ways that you can kind of help guess the age of a wine.
I strongly concur with that. Oh my God, that is completely different than it smells. It's the driest. So this one's the oldest, has the most floral nose.
Oh, it smells like honey and like really strong.
It does have. It's funny you said that because it does kind of have a meadish flavor to it, but it's really dry. It's surprisingly dry. Like I was expecting it.
My
to be
nose
a
is kind of burning a little from sniffing it. I wonder what the alcohol is on it. 14%. So that's not super high, but not low.
I think it's the strongest of the three, though, we've had, right?
13.5. I don't know what this one is. Oh, 14.
And 14.
14 and 14. So same alcohol as this one, but definitely stronger. Could be, too, that we just opened it, and so the alcohol hasn't had a chance to burn off the top yet.
I get light amounts of vanilla in the aftertaste. And there's some other, I don't know if it's herbal, like...
I'm going to set this right here.
Here's a word that is not normally associated with wine. I get kind of a sweet corn. I don't think I've ever said that about a wine before. Like,
that's fun.
Yeah, everybody's always talking about the tropical fruit flavors and the berries and what other they associate it with. This kind of has a sweet corn.
That's fun. I just pulled out a dominant flavors chart about Gewürztraminer, and one of the things that they talk about...
Definitely the honey, exotic spices.
Salt, a little bit, minerality.
A little bit mineral, yeah.
Tarragon, ginger, any of that? Do you get any of that?
Yes, I do.
It's fun. Potpourri.
It is.
So typical smells that you might find are lychee, rose, pink grapefruit, tangerine, or guava. And then sometimes some of the secondary flavors might be like salt, intense smoke, honey, exotic spices, plum or white nectarine, ginger, tarragon. All wine is going to taste like fruit. So one of the things that I did, and I will continue to taste it, one of the things they talk about with wines, especially from France and from Alsace, is that they tend to be oily, kind of like thicker and almost oily or creamy, which I can get that from this wine. So it's fun to do an old world and a new world next to each other to get the difference in how they're made.
So that's interesting. I think this wine tastes nothing like olive oil, but I have tasted olive oils because olive oils is one of my favorites.
But you taste olive oil that tastes like Gewürztraminer?
I think I have had olive oils. I like a lot of olive oils that have natural kind of citrusy, lemony flavors or grassy flavors or little white pepper and spice.
Yeah, I don't get any of that in this. This is all like honey, bark, maybe. Like if we go through the few, so fruit, earth,
Grass,
wood.
grass flavors.
I don't get grass in this. Anyway.
Put some air on it. Put it in your mouth.
I get more like wood flavor than grass. It's definitely more. Oh, he's gonna revisit this particular.
I'm gonna strongly revisit it. I'm gonna revisit it until I put a hurtin' on the bottle.
Is that from a song? You're laughing like that's funny.
It is a song.
Oh.
Put a hurtin' on the bottle. I thought you would know that. It's like a country singing. In other rock and roll news.
Sorry.
In other rock and roll news, I got a new amplifier this week because my old tube amplifier was starting to get a little staticky. Living close to the ocean is hell on electronics, and having stereo equipment is rough living this close to salt water. And I really appreciate the warm and delicious sound of tube amplifiers and analog vinyl records. So when my older amp started getting staticky, I think, from the salt that's in the air that corrodes the electronics, I went out and bought a bigger and more badass tube amplifier, and we hooked that up yesterday, and it is delicious. It sounds so pleasureful. It sounds so good playing records and having them go through this new amplifier is really nice. And now my neighbors can listen to good music all the time.
Yeah, we've been listening to a lot of good music. What have we been listening to lately?
The stack of records that's over there. Well, there's some of the constant staples that are always in rotation, like Queen, Allman Brothers, Naco, Jennifer Hall.
You started talking about John Prine earlier. Can we talk a little bit more about him?
Absolutely, yeah. We listened to his record the other day, In Spite of Ourselves. Just such a great song.
So for those who don't know John Prine, what should they know? Like 10 things you should know about John Prine.
First of all, after you're done listening to this, go on YouTube and type in John Prine and listen to the first 10 songs that come up.
Because
he's a singer, songwriter that connects with so many people. There's so many people out there that love him.
Well, the thing is, most people probably don't know his name, but they probably love his songs because he's written songs for so many other people.
Yeah, or so many other people have performed his songs. One of the most popular one, I think, would be Bonnie Raitt doing her cover of Angel from Montgomery. The song Angel from Montgomery has been covered by so many people, and it's been in movies. Susan Tedeschi covered it. It was in the movie Into the Wild.
Yeah, we have an ongoing sort of difference of opinion about who covers that song better.
I think John Prine does it best himself.
Because he's an old woman?
There's a great Jason Isbell, who we just saw in January, which was nice. He came out here to Hawaii, and Jason Isbell, formerly with the Drive-By Truckers, he came out here and did a show at the Blaisdell Theater, which was a great evening of music. And he has done some work with John Prine, and I love his statement about, well, John Prine sings, I am an old woman, and clearly he's not. So, therefore, that man can't be trusted.
He also sings one of your very favorite songs of all time.
Oh, Lake Marie.
Yeah, Lake Marie.
Lake Marie, which we named, we were talking chickens earlier, which we named 2 of our chickens after that song, Elizabeth and Marie. the Twin Lakes in Wisconsin on the Wisconsin-Illinois border. And that song just, man, strikes a chord in my heart. It's probably got something to do with the music and the chords, but the story that he tells just sucks me in, and it gets me.
What's the story about for those who have never heard it?
Well, you think it's about Elizabeth and Marie, babies, and the lakes that were named after the babies, and talks about Native Americans. Well, what the song is really about is murder. And murder. Yeah, so it's got kind of
and
a dark,
heartbreak and
dark twist to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's got some relatable things too, like where he talks about him and his wife were working on their marriage and going fishing, trying to catch some fish, and going up to Canada.
Okay. All right. Yeah. It's a great song. It's a good song.
Yeah.
And I know that I didn't know who John Prine really was, and then the couple of years back we were going to a concert, and so I started listening to his music ahead of time. And by the time we got to the concert, I cried through like half the concert. I swear, he wrote songs about all kinds of people in my life that I know. So it was, and what's so interesting about him for me is that a lot of these songs he wrote when he was like his early 20s. And now that he is an old man, like, I don't know how old he is, but he's probably 70.
Yeah, he's in his 70s, and he's survived cancer twice. And he was supposed to play in Hawaii last weekend, and first the shows got canceled because of his health, him being an old man. And then now that we're all on lockdown, they would have been canceled anyway. Everything's been canceled.
But he tested positive for COVID.
Oh yeah, he also tested positive for COVID, and he's in the hospital on a ventilator as we do this podcast right now.
Yeah, so we really hope that.
Yeah, we pray for you, John. We love you. Thank you for your great music that's touched our lives, your wonderful songs, and we're going to continue to listen to John Prine's music as long as we're still on this earth.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Amen. So we have one more wine in our lineup. Did you want to talk about it?
No. It's the least expensive. It's from
but it's the most commonly available.
Yeah. It's from a massive wine producer. Do we want to say we're not copywriting anything or
we read the names of all the rest of them.
This is from a winery called Fetzer. Doesn't Fetzer make box wine too?
Yeah, you bought this, not me.
Anyway, because it was a Gewürztraminer, and
so it's out of Monterey, California. Yeah.
Yeah, Monterey's a beautiful place, freaking awesome, and Fetzer wine. The Fetzer family is doing quite well. They have sold lots and lots of wine, but their wine is, I would
Since 1968, it says on the bottle.
I'd say their wine is on the lower end. The good thing about it is it's affordable and readily available, but so is McDonald's. I would not be surprised if this wine was high in sulfates or had arsenic above acceptable levels.
There are no acceptable levels for arsenic, and therefore,
don't drink cheap, crappy wine.
Don't drink. You can drink cheap wine, just don't drink shitty wine.
Don't drink shitty wine. Yeah.
You can be affordable and expensive and not be terrible.
Some of the shittier wines that have unacceptable levels of arsenic would be.
Don't talk about those.
Okay.
Talk about good wine. So, how much did you spend on these?
The most expensive bottle was $40.
Which one was that? I'm going to guess it was that one.
Yeah, the one that'll be liked the best, too.
The Alsace.
My favorite Alsace was the oldest one, the 2015 French Gewürztraminer. and I think the Fetzer was like $7.
Oh yeah, this one is called Bind Humbrecht. Domain Bind. I'm butchering the crap out of that. I don't even know. Domain Bindhumbrecht. So those of you who speak French, you know who you are. You can correct me and teach me how to pronounce that correctly. Also, in other news, speaking of correctness, since we last destroyed your ears with this podcast, I went to psalm school.
Congratulations. How'd you get to go to psalm school?
Why do you say it like that? You know I went to psalm school.
How'd you get to go?
Okay, so my lovely husband sent me to psalm school for my anniversary gift, and it was such a beautiful gift. I appreciated it. It was a little last minute. Thought that I had 2 months to study and get ready because it says it's psalm school, but really it's just like a test. So I only had 2 months to get ready, but I did it, and I got a pen, and
You got a sommelier pen.
I got a sommelier pen, and
a quart of masters.
Yeah, so thanks for that. But I do joke that I love you too. But I do joke and say, like, I think you did it just so that you don't have to open wine anymore. And look, the first time I've seen you open wine in so long, you broke the cork. So
yeah.
You gotta stay in practice. But I've been practicing with my foil cutting because
what did you learn from that?
That it's fine the way I do it, but I could also do it below the lip. So I usually cut above the lip. I don't know, it just looks nicer. But then I guess I could cut. I'm gonna cut below the lip for a while, see how that goes. Above the lip, below the lip, between the lip, whatever. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. So we've talked a lot about wine, talked a little bit about sex, and a little bit about rock and roll and music.
So is that it? Are we done?
Yeah, I think...
Season 2, Episode 1, in the bag.
And our outro, I'll play a little sample of I recorded a song.
Wait, before you do, I do want to hear your song recording, but before you do, I think that we should let everyone, those 4 people that listen to this, know that we took time right away during this pandemic to plan out like 15 episodes.
Yeah, so there's going to be more episodes coming out.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah, whether you want to listen or not. And we're going to be on another podcast coming up Saturday.
Yeah, that matters.
Called BFF with the Chef. And BFF with the Chef is mostly a cooking show. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, wherever you stream your podcasts. It's on YouTube. So it's easily accessible and readily available. And if you check out BFF with the Chef, we are going to be on the next upcoming episode talking about winefulness.
Right, so experience winefulness. We have 4 courses, like a meal. We have 4 classes that are related to wine education and mindfulness training, and we've been doing them all over
the world.
We've done them in the U.S. and in Canada, both on the mainland and here in Hawaii, and so I'm really looking forward to talking about that.
I'm looking forward to talking about it too.
Okay. So play us your song. I can't wait.
In conclusion, here's a little sample of a song I've been recording, and
here's a little song I wrote.
Be coming out pretty soon.